operators and CRDs in our Kubernetes. So basically, in the last video, as you know that we have discussed about the daemon sets, which are managing the pods, and through pods, how they manage the cluster nodes by enabling the log files, how to take a track of various agents installed on the specific nodes or VMs, which we call as nodes, and how to take the log insights for the memory and CPU. So now in this video, we'll check about the operators, which will further extend the functionality of Kubernetes so that we can manage the complex applications. So what is the purpose of operators basically, guys? So the first purpose is the installation, and we can say the configuring complex application. And second is the management, running the configuration file. Like as we have seen the management file or YAML in the configuration part, we'll manage the YAML file, which would be responsible for managing the configuration of the Kubernetes by CRT operators. And here we can also do the upgrades application to new versions. Healing means detecting and recovering from failures. So whichever resources, suppose I have to enroll, so I can do the auto healing and manage the updates, pushing the updates to the containerized application. So for this, we have to maintain a separate YML file, and from there we have to manage, which we'll see in our upcoming videos in full practical. So till then, we'll discuss about our theoretical parts, like how the custom resource definitions, which CRDs can be defined, and how we can manage it. So for this, we can define the custom resource within the Kubernetes API. So, as you know that the API is the part of Kubernetes which is will be responsible for managing the clusters and the nodes. So, for this, what we will do, we will call the Kubernetes API. Now, API would be responsible for managing the pods. Okay, and from that, through that, we will be able to call the containers, and inside the containers we have an application. So those application would be managing the pods, and through that API we will be managing the request. Okay, so next part we will discuss about Kubernetes API would be responsible for managing the management of application specific data which we place inside the container. And from there we can manage the declarative management. We can integrate the Kubernetes API and manage all the data. And what are the advantages of that? Schema validation is there. Means we can define the custom resource for data integrity, as well as we can define the versioning. Means why the versioning is needed, so that any API gets updated. So we can be able to define the version of the API by for a proper versioning tools. As you know that there are specific version like GitHub is there, GitLab is there, so we can manage the proper versioning by these tools. And after that we can manage the resources, the sub resources, like we can manage the status, and also for the scaling for additional functionality. Now how we can define a CRD, which is, you can cluster resource definitions. So we can define it in a YAML file and apply it to your cluster. So this is the basic configuration for the CRD definitions. We can define the API version here, like io. So we can as you have seen, this is the version which I have told you. So from there we can define this version. This is the version part, and what the kind. Now kind, we can see the type of the which type is this. So it is a custom resource definition. And after that, metadata is there, the name is there, specification, which group it belongs to, like example.com, and about the versioning. So which version it belongs to, version 1, and what are the storage type, how the schema is defined. Means like we have to define in OpenAPI with which schema, suppose the type, property, object. So accordingly, we can define those parameters, and we can define the scope. So scope is basically a namespace where we can, manage the widgets, like which type of CRD cluster resource we can manage it. Now these are the operators. So we can define the custom resource. We can manage it to install by SDK from GitHub. So this is the our SDK from where we can install the operator SDK from GitHub portal. So actually we can define it manually, but it is a sample for where we can manage it. And after that, since it's a Linux box, so we can define it by sudo command. And after that, you can create a new operator object. So likewise, we can for the basic practices, we need the version control for managing the operator code. And for testing implementation, we need to ensure the reliability should be there, as well as documentation and security also will be uh, taking into account. So this is the about our operator CRDs, as well as the managing the Kubernetes API in a version-based control, so that we can manage the YAML file. Okay, guys. So thank you for watching.